Purple rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. Only want to see you bathing in the purple rain. I never want to be your weekend lover.
That's a good one there this morning, huh? That's a good one. Always in the mood for some Prince, I guess, huh? That's a good song. Anyway, it is Monday, 6:23 in the morning, March 13th. I'm Matt Briscoe with the Country Tribune Morning Update. Well, it looks like as the 60-day mark in the 85th Texas legislature has now come and gone on Friday, the gloves are pretty much coming off. Okay, I mean, the gloves are coming off this morning. Last week we saw Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and his love affair with the media. It was on prominent display last week. He held 3 press conferences in 24 hours. Okay. Now, if you don't know, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick was a former sportscaster, conservative talk radio host. He rarely saw a camera or a microphone that he wasn't absolutely in love with. But anyway, and I like Dan Patrick. I'm a supporter of Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. But let's face it, he's a media clown. Okay, never met a camera he didn't like. Kind of like Phil Gramm. For those of you who've ever been in Texas long enough to remember, Senator Phil Gramm. Phil Gramm never met a camera he didn't like. Anyway, excuse me. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick appeared with North Carolina's Lieutenant Governor last week to, I guess, kind of garner support for his bathroom bill. Then he faced reporters just a couple hours later to promote this so-called Blue Alert system meant to notify law enforcement agencies statewide when a police officer is injured or killed on duty. Then Patrick came back again the following day to promote his transgender bathroom bill. Now compare that to Governor Greg Abbott. Governor Greg Abbott has not held a press conference since last year and will hardly give the media a minute of his time. Okay? But he always finds time to go on TV. Now, Patrick and Abbott are both up for re-election in 2018, and Dan Patrick has vowed not to challenge Governor Greg Abbott, calling him his conservative partner. So I'm guessing for now that's off the table, and trying to kind of kill the speculation of a coming kind of fight within the party. Patrick called a January press conference, if you'll remember this, and implored reporters to write stories about how a rivalry between Greg Abbott and Dan Patrick himself wasn't a story. Now, Abbott didn't respond with his own press conference. If the two eventually do run against each other, it's easy to imagine one side summoning journalists to announce that the other is simply staying silent. While we're waiting this scenario to play out, the state legislature is now getting down to business. So the bill passing restriction has been lifted, which is going to make for a much busier floor session in both the House and the Senate. Rules prohibiting the legislature from approving most bills beyond these so-called emergency items directed by the governor expired on the session's 60th day. That was Friday. So let me explain how this works. Unless it's an emergency item, such as foster care, the Convention of the States, or anti-sanctuary cities, something in theory can't become law because of the 60-day rule. It's a good rule. I like it. It's a good rule. But now, after the State Affairs Committee, very powerful committee, hung around till nearly 5 in the morning last week to approve the Dan Patrick kind of blessed bill prohibiting transgender people from using public bathrooms of their choice, the full Senate is going to kind of waste very little time passing it. Now, there's a challenge for it. Speaker Joe Straus over in the House said the proposal could hurt the Texas economy. Now, this is a Republican talking. The Senate's leading bathroom lobbying organization, or business lobbying organization, has also warned that the bathroom bill could cost billions in boycotts and lost jobs. Now, they're kind of spooked by what happened in North Carolina, because North Carolina passed a similar legislature measure last year, sparking this national outcry and causing these lucrative concerts and sporting events to leave the state. Bruce Springsteen is one of them. Facebook has come out against it. There are something like 140 rock and Hollywood stars have also denounced it. Not like we care what rock stars and Hollywood elitists think, but Abbott could give House Republicans some support on this measure. But I want to tell you something. Governor Abbott has not come out saying whether he fully supports this bill or not. We really don't know where Governor Abbott stands on this bill, on this bathroom bill. We really don't. So that's something to watch this week as we now enter this beyond this 60-day mark. Now, school finance fix, that's going to be on the table. The House is coming up with a plan attempting to improve how Texas pays for public schools. The bill that is there now wants to pump $1.6 billion in extra money into classrooms, and its sponsor, House Republican Dan Huberty, the top education guy in the state, says school children statewide can't wait for much needed changes on how funding is distributed. His attempt is coming despite the Texas Supreme Court ruling last summer that while deeply flawed, the current system is barely constitutional, meaning lawmakers are not obligated legally to do anything about it. The Senate shown little interest in tackling the school finance problem. The Senate instead has focused on voucher bills, which would offer state funding to families wanting to put their children in private schools and religious alternatives from public schools. Dan Huberty says vouchers are a dead issue in the House, but that could doom his school finance fix in the Senate. So don't forget that. It may prove one of several upcoming face-offs between the two chambers. With their, they have some very conflicting priorities this year. And neither could get the key legislation that they want. Okay, that's just the truth of the matter, because somebody's going to face off. The House and Senate are going to face off. This is going to become an inner struggle between Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and Speaker of the House Joe Straus, both Republicans. And it seems like Governor Greg Abbott, is caught in the middle. So we're going to see how that all plays out. In other news, the governors of Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, and New Mexico are seeking a temporary suspension of grazing restrictions for farmers and ranchers because of wildfires. The fires have burned more than 2,300 square miles in these 4 states, forcing farmers and ranchers to move their livestock. The letter from the governors to Acting Secretary Mike Young of the Agriculture Department asked the restrictions in the Conservation Reserve Program be lifted to provide more grazing land. The program is voluntary land conservation program of the Farm Service Agency, part of the USDA, to help agriculture producers protect environmentally sensitive land. According to the agency, emergency grazing of CRP land is authorized under certain conditions to relieve livestock producers due to some natural disasters. So that could be big news if you were up in the Panhandle and face disaster over these wildfires. So hopefully soon the USDA will help Texas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Kansas ranchers as they face this problem. Did you hear about this story out of Houston? A Houston man has been shot and killed in front of his wife and children by a young man who attempted to steal the family's car, only to find out that it was a manual transmission that they didn't know how to drive. True story. Harris County Sheriff's official said 47-year-old Pedro Aguilar was killed after pulling up to the family's apartment late Saturday. Authorities say a second car pulled alongside with at least 2 suspects in it, pulled Aguilar from his vehicle, beat him before shooting him in the chest. He died at the scene in front of his family. The 2 suspects got in Aguilar's car, discovered it was a manual transmission, then jumped out and fled in their own vehicle. Authorities are searching for suspects described as being in their late teens to early 20s. So, what a weird story. What a weird story. I mean, could you imagine getting pulled out of your car, beaten, then shot in the chest by some kids to steal your car, only to find out, hey, I don't know how to drive a stick. I'm just saying. Current time now, 6:35. It's going to currently 47 degrees in Burnet. Going to reach for a high today of about 67, low of 40, and it's currently overcast. And a little 20% chance of precipitation today. Not going to be too much, but high's going to reach 67 in Burnet, almost to 70 across some parts of the region today. It's going to be staying mostly in the 70s throughout the week, possibly almost reaching 80 on Friday with a 40% chance of rain. So looks like altogether it's going to be a pretty nice week. Get out there and enjoy it. Hey, wanted to get back there. Can we go with the outro with some with Purple Rain again? Let's do that. All right, 6:36 in the morning. I'm Matt Briscoe with the Country Tribune Morning Update. Have a great day. See you here in a little while when we do the next update. Take care, everybody.
Baby, I can never steal you from another. It's such a shame our friendship had to end. Purple rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. Only want to see you underneath the purple rain. Honey, I know, times are changing. It's time we all reach out for something new. That means you too. You say you want a leader, but you can't seem to make up your mind. I think you better close it and let me guide you.